In New York on June 7th, thousands answered the NAACP's calls for a silent march to protest racial profiling and the New York Police Department's stop and frisk policy. The march invoked another silent march organized by the NAACP in 1917 against lynchings, police brutality, and systemic violence against African Americans. James Harris is the president of the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP.
95 years ago, there was quite a bit of lynchings. There was still cases of incredible police brutality and injustice. So today we come to commemorate that, but to ask that they stop and frisk as well as racial profiling come to an end. We want to see legislation done that will do away with it and protect the rights of citizens everywhere.
Demonstrators also protested the recent killings of unarmed African American men. Taking part in the march were the fathers of 16-year-old Trayvon Martin, killed by self-appointed neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman in Florida, and 18-year-old Ramarley Graham, who was shot dead by police in his grandmother's home in New York. They were joined by Kenneth Chamberlain, Jr., the son of retired Marine Kenneth Chamberlain, who was shot dead in his own home by police, as well as J-Tech Reed, a 19-year-old whose brutal beating was captured on cell phone video. Leroy Gadsden is a legal chair of the NAACP's New York branch.
Well, the goal is further the gap between the police and the community, and we need the police more than any other community because we do have crime in our community, but it doesn't justify blatant constitutional violations. When you look at the Ramarley Graham, you look at the Kenneth Chamberlain, we work with those families, and we look at the family and we look at the community, and they say, I can be any one of those. How do we tell them respect the police, cooperate with the police, when they said, well, hello, how did they walk in Mr. Chamberlain, a veteran of the war, in his house, not bothering anybody? It was the police that burst in the house and killed him. When we go up there, we talk to people and the kids in White Flint, they say, well, listen, you want us to be cooperative and good citizens, explain to us under what law the police killed him under. I can't answer that question.
Unions, religious, and civil rights groups, as well as the Occupy movement, endorsed the march, an indicator of the broad growing anger at police policy. Last year, the NYPD made nearly 700,000 stop and frisks, mostly of young Black and Latino men, 90% who were not guilty of any crime. Critics maintain these stops occur without reasonable cause and target people of color, thus violating the 4th and 14th Amendments. The policy's most ardent defender, Mayor Michael Bloomberg, recently spoke at the First Baptist Church in Brownsville, one of the neighborhoods most heavily targeted by stop and frisks. He defended the program, but also said their frequency would be reduced.
There's no denying that stops take guns off the street and save lives. And to borrow a phrase from President Clinton, I believe the practice needs to be mended, not ended, to ensure that stops are conducted appropriately with as much courtesy as possible.
Despite the mayor's remarks, the turnout for the march was massive, while advocates, community leaders, and elected officials are continuing to push legal action and maintain calls for federal intervention against the NYPD. Here are the voices of some of the thousands that took part.
By the age of 14, it wasn't somebody, a gangbanger in the community or a thug or another youth that pulled out a gun on me. It was actually an officer that ran up saying that I met the description of somebody who had a gun. Yeah, I was only wearing a tank top, so it's like you must be blind if you can't see that I don't have a gun. You understand? And you can, and what changes things is the fact that you can see their hands right next to the triggers.
It's a young man killed in his house, and a few weeks before that, it's a young man killed walking down the street. And the mayor is telling you he can stop and frisk everybody twice an hour and 3 times on Sunday if he chooses to. It is a racist policy. The federal government should do something about it, and shame on them for not having actually ended it a long time ago.
I'm here today because of the stop and frisk. They do it to Blacks, African Americans, and Latinos only. On the way here, I saw a stop and frisk of a man who was just standing there holding a bouquet of flowers. What could he have possibly done?
It breaks my heart when I see issues such as Trayvon Martin and Ramarley Graham. We can't allow public safety to get in the way of people's personal rights. With stop and frisk, no one knows, no police officer, no regular citizen knows someone's rap sheet or anything of their background when they're walking down the street. My husband, who's an educator and usually in a suit and tie, shouldn't feel threatened walking through our own community where we pay taxes and where we're supportive of the PD. We have family on the force, but it's a problem.
It's very important as a white person to come out in solidarity as an ally to people of color. I also think as a queer person that there's huge policing of the queer community. So it's definitely like the effect on people of color is the greatest, but there are other communities that are regularly and systematically policed as well.
Stop and frisk in the United States is just a continuation of stop and frisk in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places where the United States is invading and occupying, and they're using the same tactics on Americans as they've been using as the occupier in these other countries. So it's the whole militarization, the wars, and this is the war on American people, the war of color.
I'm afraid that this summer we are going to see people going to start going after the police, and we don't want that. We want to have a relationship where the people respect the police and the police respect the people. But we don't control that. The control is to the man with the badge and the gun, and we hope this protest today will get the mayor's attention. We hope the commissioners listen and say, wait a minute, we have to stop. We have to change what we are doing.
The march ended with hundreds rallying at the mayor's residence. Protesters who refused to leave were beaten by police. Eight were arrested. Reporting for The Real News, this is Jessel Noor in New York.